What's up, gamers? Welcome back for more WotC-20, and today's matchup is Rain Dance versus Sabrina's Alakazam. Rain Dance, very familiar, lots of representation. You've probably seen it before. We have different varieties of it, a lot of different Pokemon you can splash in it. We have a dark variant in the shop. And then you have Sabrina's Alakazam, which is brand new this week. So, Cleffa versus Sabrina's Abra in the opener, both at least free retreaters, and you might see 10 damage per pound here on Cleffa. But ideally, we'll start to see some benches fill out here. Definitely not ideal. And there's a comp search. We'll probably see this into what I would have to imagine is a fan club, but we shall see. Discarding another comp search, and I can't see what's underneath it there. Unclear, but both players seem to know. And I assume this will bring out a fan club. We'll see. Usually those opening turns, they can drag out, be a little longer, so we'll keep an eye on that real quick. Can see a Furret in hand. All right, we'll do some hand peeping on the Rain Dance side. I saw 2 Sentrets, implying the existence of a Furret. And there is a Cleffa off of the comp search. No fan club. Oh no, that must be prized. Nothing like fan clubbing for 1 on your opening turn. And a pass. No attempting an attack? Oh, alright. It was a hand card counting question. Not an attack. And not a pass. Copycat for a full hand, always good in the opener as well. That'll be supporter for turn, and we'll see what this goes into. Hopefully more bench.
This bench probably won't last. Do you mind filling pink and white? Yeah.
The pink is standard, the white is WotC.
Cool.
The second set I have here.
A long opening turn here for Sabrina's Alakazam. Mewtwo comes down, along with a Rocket's Mewtwo. Should that Alakazam come out, we'll see all of those attacks available and unlocked. Lots of text on these cards. If you aren't familiar, Rocket's Mewtwo, which we usually don't see play with, has 3 attacks. It has Psyburn for 60, has the big attack, a mid-range Hypno Blast for 20 and Flip to Sleep, and then Juxtapose for 1 energy on a flip, swap, active damage counters for both sides. 2 Sentrets on board into a copycat of his own on the Rain Dance side, and a water attach into Cleffa. Now there is a free retreat on the Abra inactive. Probably would have liked to see that go into a Cleffa just to try to block an incoming Eek here, but marking 10 damage is also a perfectly fine option. You're not going to get a 2-shot on it though. And we see the Eek come out. So 2 Sentrets on board. A classic Rain Dance opener. And now a trader sending in yet another Mewtwo, this being the Black Star Mewtwo. Black Star promo, usually familiar with it in metal builds. Metal Mewtwo was a deck back in the day. And instead, Kadabra coming out. Now, if this is going to be an evolution turn, I'd like to see it pulled out of active, considering there's only 1 energy attachment on it. And a warp to a benched Cleffa. Now it's going to come in. Would have liked that last turn just for Eek purposes on both sides. I'll bet you will see an Eek attempt here. Now the Kadabra comes down. It's evolved. Now it's no longer a free retreater. And a Gust on Sentret. Guarantees the Eek. Looking good on both sides. Draw for turn for Rain Dance. And there's a DCE in hand, and I also see a Wooper. DCE onto the Wooper, maybe. We'll see. Big hand. I see a breeder in there too. Now the Wooper, there's a few of them. That is Slime Wooper. Now, there's another Neo series Wooper from Neo Genesis. That one's from Neo Discovery, but Neo Genesis has Amnesia and Slam for double colorless. Amnesia's funny because it can effectively lock down Rocket Zapdos since it has a lightning resistance, and then Amnesia would prevent it from using Electro Burn, but this is not that Wooper. This is our other Wooper. Another Gust onto Mewtwo. And that's too bad because we just saw a Warp come down onto Cleffa. Into an Oak. Now we see a Squirtle in hand. That's a familiar Rain Dance card. And I think that was a pretty big deal because now that Quagsire can come down and there's an energy removal in hand, we might see energy have trouble sticking to the board for the Sabrina side. That Quagsire is a great attacker. We're not going to see its first attack though because it requires two different kinds of basic energies to use all of the attacks. So for 70 HP and a lightning resistance, that Quagsire could Mudslap for 2 fighting, which definitely is not the point in Rain Dance, or get 2 more water on it, and Whirlpool will deal 40 with a energy removal as the effect. So Quagsire could definitely be scary here. I don't think Sabrina's side has much energy where it wants it, and that Mewtwo stuck inactive is going to create a lot of problems. A Psychic Energy to active. If it's going to be a double attach slow retreat, that is going to be tough to overcome if there's no slowdown from the Rain Dance side. And a Warp Energy onto the center, it brings Cleffa back into active. For those that aren't familiar with what the Mewtwo is trying to attack with last turn, energy control on a flip. If heads, choose a basic energy attached to one of the opponent's Pokemon, attach it to another Pokemon of your choice. So energy movement, kind of like energy removing, depending on where you put the energy. Some decks can handle it better than others, but it was a Tails regardless. A Cyclone Energy comes down, so Rain Dance now has to Gust themselves. Dealer's choice. There are 2 Cleffas on board for them, so yep. Obvious pick is to bring a baby back in. And it's also a free retreater. And that Cyclone immediately goes in the bin, which is painful but necessary, to bring back out a Cleffa. Well, it's Eek on Eek action here. It is a Tails though, so no eking for Alakazam side. They have a full hand though, looks pretty decent. A Water Energy attached to Quagsire. Now there's a Blastoise in hand. We'll see if we find a breeder anytime soon. And Furret comes down. So very good setup flow happening for Rain Dance. No Blastoise yet. Don't really need it though. That Quagsire is practically on its way to attacking individually. And one Cleffa swaps out for the other. Eek on Eek action. Can't tell what that is off screen. Looks like they successfully eked though. Yet another Sabrina's Abra coming down onto the board. This one has a retreat cost of 1 though, so it's not a free retreater like the other Abra we had earlier. It also has 10 more HP and 2 completely different attacks. Lots of consideration. Is that another warp? Alright, well, the Eek is at least successful. I do think that this Sabrina Zabra might have some worthwhile attacks if Alakazam comes down. One of those attacks would definitely not be Psyscan. It's just a hand peep on the opponent. But it does have a Psychic quick attack, which I feel like you don't really see much. Energy Stadium coming down. It's a Tails, though. Would have gotten a Water Energy back into the hand for Rain Dance. Looks like there's a Copycat in hand and a Water Energy. So we know Quagsire can start attacking. And if Whirlpool hits here, it will discard that Cleffa. Alright, Cleffa's gone, as is that Warp Energy. A little bit of text reading for both sides here. As the first prize of the match. Now, Quagsire only has 70 HP. So if you feel okay with it, you could try to bring Kadabra in here. And we will see Kadabra promoted into the active slot. There's a Goldberry as well. Now, it's pretty energy resistant because Life Drain only requires 1 energy. And it looks like we will see a Life Drain attempt. The problem here is that it requires a coin flip. And instead we're going to go straight to evolving. Ooh, I don't know if I like that. Alakazam, knowing something I don't know, is going to go for energy absorption. Again, classic play from the old Metal Mewtwo deck. It will get 2 Psychic onto Alakazam, which is good. Next turn, with an attach, it will be able to Cyburn, but that's only going to do 60. And actually, it's not going to be 60 because Whirlpool's going to remove an energy, assuming Quagsire stays active and attacks. Energy Stadium gets a Water back to hand. Looks like Squirtle's starting to slowly power up. Got 2 Blastoise in hand, as well as a Warp Energy and a Copycat. Clutching up on that hand makes a lot of sense right now. You have all the momentum and pressure on board. And yep, there's the Whirlpool. It's going to do 40. That will at least pop the Goldberry. So Alakazam remains more or less damageless. But now instead of having enough energy to use Mega Burn, you're going to have to attack with something else. Wouldn't be surprised if we see Alakazam, and a Rainbow Energy to deal 10 to self. That won't matter with the math on board for attacks. What I was going to say was I wonder if we see a Hypnoblast. We're most certainly going to see Psylink into something. Oh, that must have been Telekinesis from the Black Star promo Mewtwo. And before you ask which one, it's the one that was also printed in Legendary Collection. Not sure how to separate those out on board, but anyway, Telekinesis, choose an opponent's Pokemon, it'll deal 30 to it. So that did get a prize, but it doesn't address the big problem, which is there's a Quagsire fully powered up in the active with no damage on it, constantly whirlpooling away your energy. Alright, 50 on the Alakazam. Gonna have to see a Goldberry or something. Maybe now we'll see the Hypnoblast. But that sleep is not unconditional. It needs to be a heads flip in order for that Quagsire to go to sleep. And we also know there's a warp in hand, even though there's a warp attached to Furret. You also have Furret, so you know you can look for more warps depending on how many you run. And with War Turtle down, Blastoise is inevitable. So another difficult position for Sabrina's side. Another Rainbow dealing 10 to self. Won't really matter here as we were talking about the math. Also, I don't think we've been seeing any Energy Stadium flips from Sabrina's side to be getting some Psychic back to hand. Maybe it's not wanted. Okay, there's an Energy Stadium attempt, I think. Tails anyway. And then 60 damage done to active. Unsure if that was from Psyburn on the Rocket's Mewtwo, which I think it was because the pilot pointed to it, or if that was just Mega Burn from Alakazam itself. But regardless, this Quagsire is going to keep attacking, and that's a lot of cards going to the bin now for Alakazam's side.
I think Scoop Up is a better choice for this deck because I want to be scooping that.
So one thing you could do here, you're probably just going to throw Cleffa inactive so you can think your turn out and you can always retreat it, but it's not impossible for you to bring in the other Abra and quick attack down that Quagsire. Of course, it's on a flip. It's not ideal. Or we'll just Eek instead. Definitely the safer play. Unsure what the hand size was. The more desperate the board state, the more desperate the plays will become anyway. Gonna fur it back in a Cleffa and something else. Not sure what card was pulled out with Furret there. It needs to be shown though. It was a water energy. And the Cleffa stays around. So if you're trying to build back up on Zam's side, and of course there's a... Okay, here's the baby flip. Off camera, not sure what it is. Looks like it was a Tails. Attach went to the Blastoise. I thought the attach went to the Wooper that turn, but board is getting out of hand. Kadabra comes down at least, but just looking at the amount of attaches on board for Rain Dance versus Zam and Blastoise being down, it can dump as much energy as it wants. This is not looking good at all. Stadium replacement, probably would have liked to see Energy Stadium rolled for before overriding it with Resistance Gym. But Resistance Gym isn't going to do anything here. I don't think there's any... I mean, potentially, you could Gust in the Sentret and say that the Psychic Resistance will matter there, and that's what Resistance Gym is giving you the option for, but there are bigger problems on board here. Not a lot of comeback mechanic options on the Alakazam side. You'd hate to just try to shoot the moon with a bunch of life drain rules. Looks like a Warp in hand and maybe a Fan Club. Going to Eek anyway. The real question is, what are you trying to find in that Eek that will get you out of this position? More scavenger hunting from Furret. Assumingly, we will see just a regular water energy pulled out. Furret, as good as it is for fetching special energy, is more than capable of also fetching basic energies. And that will attach to Wooper. There's an Oak in hand. Let's see what else. An energy removal, a Cleffa. I mean, you can drop the removal Oak. Just watch how thin your deck is getting with 4 prizes still left to take, but looking pretty comfortable. Alright, a tails on the baby flip. I think we're going to see a slow death here, though, if I had to guess. Alakazam is back online, so that's good for the Zam side, but you have no energy. Trying to figure out the... Man, I would just pound the Quagsire at this point. Energy absorption. Am I missing something here? Is that Quagsire not 70 HP? Personally would have taken the opportunity to remove 5 cards off the board. Come to think of it, that Abra could have come in anytime in the last couple of turns to take out the Quagsire. Pass back to Rain Dance here. Now you're making the Alakazam vulnerable to energy removal. Furt's going to keep scavenger hunting. Gradually sculpting the deck for Rain Dance. And there's an energy removal anyway. Oaking away a Blastoise, probably looking for another Quagsire. Another one's coming in soon, ready or not. Looks like a Warp, Copycat, Wooper, Wartortle, and a DCE, so kind of a nothing hand. And a Whirlpool, marking 40. Halfway to a knockout on this Alakazam. And now you only have 1 Psychic Energy. But you could use Pound. A Psychic attached to active, you know you're going to get Revenge killed from Blastoise at this point. Looks like we're considering a Copycat. There's a Sabrina trainer card in hand, 2 Mewtwo's, and a Fan Club. Sizable Copycat, though. Shuffle sequence will take a minute. Alright, long shuffle turn there, but now we have Kadabra coming down. That does remove the Pound knockout option, but at least there's Hypnoblast. Alright, yep, there goes Hypnoblast. Finally takes out the Quagsire. Cleffa promoted to active, no need to bring the Blastoise in yet. See if you can find another Quagsire off of the draw. Lots of energy in hand. I'd just say based on board state, bring in that Blastoise. Yeah, here we go. Now we're attaching to Furret. That's awesome. All right, Hydro Pump takes the KO right now. That is only dealing 40. It It can deal up to 60 if there are 5 attaches. And we might even see some spinning attack from Furret. We'll see. Mew down on the bench. Mew's attack would be very good in this matchup, considering us outside of the Furret line. This is all water all the time, as Rain Dance usually is. And an Eek from Sabrina's Alakazam side. Still not sure where that other Quagsire is, but Squirtle comes down, you can start setting it up. You know that you have a Wartortle in hand. That actually has some pretty decent attacks on it. And heads from Blastoise on Hydro Pump takes out another Cleffa. So the Wartortle in hand is base set for 3 attaches, and it can also use DCE. Bite for 40 is pretty good. Hard to say what you do here if you're Sabrina's Alakazam side. You could take Mew and just mark 20 at everything and then get immediately responded to. Alakazam is at least there, so the Mew is a free retreater. You could Psylink into Mew's attack. I believe it is called Rainbow Wave. And instead, we're going to see an energy absorption again. Now, the biggest attack on either Mewtwo or Alakazam is going to only cap out at 60. So that is still a 2-shot on a Blastoise. And Blastoise, in response, is also going to be dealing 40, which is a 2-shot back at Alakazam. And there's an energy removal anyway. Brutal. Wartortle comes down. Probably give it a DCE. No downside not to that I can think of. Interesting. Instead, we're going to warp out of Blastoise and Copycat. Trying to think what Rain Dance would be afraid of here. They might come back in and attack anyway at the end of the turn, but I'm surprised to... Maybe they're looking for gusts. Could also be looking for more energy removal. Just general disruption other than an energy-filled hand. You have Furret, so you can get the energy back. Finds another Blastoise. Okay, that was worth it. However, it is not powered up, so... Going from 1 retreat cost up is just going to be gust bait. Wartortle to Blastoise would be a 1 to 3 retreat cost bump. And there is a gust in hand, so plenty of utility found. Bringing in the Mew, Cleffa comes out, Blastoise comes back in, just trying to finish this off a little quicker. That will put things down to 1 prize. And now what's Alakazam gonna do? You're staring down a 2-shot for anything in your active or on your bench if you're Alakazam side. You, I guess, don't run energy removal, but there's also a Furret there. Not sure where the last Quagsire is. It's actually, finding Quagsire in and of itself probably would have been good enough reason to copycat the previous turn for Rain Dance. Abra comes in, Cleffa comes in. With no reasonable way to one-shot a Blastoise, I think this is pretty much all wrapped up. Mew comes down again. We haven't seen... I don't think we've seen every gust that we could see. So maybe that'll close it out for Rain Dance. Reading up on Rainbow Wave. Rainbow Energy means Rainbow Wave can target water. That'll mark 20 everywhere. But then you're not going to turn around next turn and deal 80 to Blastoise anyway. A little bit of confusion on what Rainbow Wave is targeting. It's also just a very difficult card to read because it's only in reverse foil. So thank you, Southern Islands Collection. Alright, with 2 Blastoise online, I know Wooper hasn't found Quagsire yet to evolve into, but... Hydro Pump will deal 40. Could have also put the Water Energy onto the active Blastoise just to get it to 50, make things a little more smoothed over with math. Because then that way even Furret can come in and take a knockout. Alright, Warp in hand, Sabrina Trainer in hand, another Alakazam in hand. If this is going to continue, we're just going to have to either get that Alakazam out of active or find a way to find a Goldberry. We know there's Goldberries in the deck. And there's a Warp, so it looks like we're gonna bring something else into active. You can't bring the Mew in because it'll get one shot. Oh, and there's the Sabrina. So any Sabrina card can now have all of its energy moved to one other Sabrina card. And does that include special energy? I don't know if I've noticed that before. Yep, all energy cards, so that includes the Warp and the Rainbow. So cool energy movement effectively gets rid of the 40 off of active in a way. And now we're going to see if a Life Drain gets off, and it does! Wow! So now Blastoise is going to be put up to 90 damage. And there's not an immediate kill, unless there's a Gust to be found. Not an immediate kill available for Rain Dance this coming turn now. So Life Drain's a very fun attack. I tried to pair it with Bats at one point. See if Surprise Bite from Dark Crobat would have been well and synergistic with it, but that experiment did not go very well. Oh, and now a Computer Search. I assume this is for a Gust. Unsure what it was. At this point, depending on how many cards are in hand, I would even computer search for an item finder if the last gust is prized. Oh, and instead we're grabbing another Quagsire. Okay. So unsure if that gust line of play was actually available or not. I guess we'll see on the prize eventually. DCE to retreat that Blastoise from getting knocked out would be perfectly acceptable to allow it to get knocked out just to mark some big damage and then retaliate with any of your other setup attackers. Quagsire comes in with only 50 HP remaining to it, and we'll see a Whirlpool put Sabrina's Kadabra down to 30 remaining HP, so 40 damage, 70 total. Okay, pass back to Alakazam. I'm surprised that we're finding out still. Alakazam comes back down. Not going to allow it to survive another attack from that Quagsire, though. With 2 energy on board. 1 being Rainbow and 1 being Warp. You can't even go for the Hypno Blast on Rocket's Mewtwo with Psylink. Using Rainbow Wave through Psylink from the Mew would at least tag the Blastoise that's on the bench. Now, if you want to be risky, Rocket's Mewtwo Juxtapose on a heads flip would keep this thing going. I actually don't see another line of play that drags the match out. And that's ahead, so interesting. Moving energy instead of the Juxtapose. I assume that won't matter because Furret, there's no energy in hand, but... And if there's no energy in deck, just Town V it, then Furret. Take the game there. I think that will just about do it. Would have liked to see Juxtapose instead of Energy Control, but it's a very complicated deck to play when you have all of the attacks on board available to you. And we like to see debuts of new decks anyway, so while this plays out, Scavenger Hunt's going to go and fetch that final energy needed for Quagsire to take this final prize. We'll see if that final prize might have been a gust or something. But thank you for watching. They got there eventually. Long drawn out. That's kind of the glory of the format. You can really have some drawn out games if you play to outs. There's usually always a path forward if you're willing to take coin flips, but good game from both players. Thank you for watching. Last card was actually an Energy Stadium, so not sure about the last gust, but maybe I missed one. That being said, thank you for watching for the first time along with me, and have a good one.